and stuff. Okay, I'll welcome everyone to the meeting today. When Jessica sent out the agenda, she commented that it was a pretty robust agenda. It is. I think rumor has it that she waited to find out that for you Bronco fans that they traded out of the first round before she sent this agenda out. So thanks for that consideration, Jessica. Because we have a very full agenda, let's get at it. Should we start with roll call first?
Yes. If you're online, just unmute and let me know that you're here. Alan?
Here.
Bernie?
Here.
Jack?
Here.
Ed? Patty? Let me know she wouldn't make it. Ashley?
Here.
Matt? Mia?
Here.
Dan?
So Dan is there, Dan.
It looks
Did
like
you
there's
guys-
time. Here you are. Dawn? Elle?
Here.
Zach? Kayla?
Here.
Christopher?
Here.
All right.
Okay, welcome everyone. The next agenda item is the approval of the minutes from, actually the approval of the agenda today. So I hope that everyone had a chance to review the agenda prior to the meeting today. Not only the agenda, but there's a lot of supporting documents that went along with it that in many cases showed us the work that has been put on with some members of our task force. So I'd like to tee up the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Okay. Second item, it's a approval of the minutes from our previous meeting a couple months ago. Again, I assume that you've had a chance to receive the document and take a look at what was covered. Any questions or comments from the recap of the previous meeting? With no questions or comments, all in favor of approving the agenda recap as written? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. None opposed, so we accept the minutes as written. All right, the next agenda item. Pretty exciting that we have this next agenda to consider. The introduction of a capstone student project to develop signage and wayfinding materials throughout Keystone Trails. I'm not surprised that the town, certainly embraced this from our previous experience with graduate students from this program at the University of Colorado. I think, Jessica, you at one time resembled that remark. So, but no, in all seriousness, with the quality of the work of the students, I'm certainly excited that we have the opportunity to work with them again. For the last meeting we had, there was a pretty thorough document that everyone had access to that explained the outline of this project, what it involved, some of the deliverables that were hoped to get from it. But today, we will have a presentation from some of the students who will be participating in this to give us a much more broad understanding of what will happen and give us an opportunity to ask questions and sort of dig into what they'll be working on. So I'd like to turn it over to Jessica and ask if she could introduce our presenters and facilitate the discussion from there.
Sure. So online we have Kayla and Morgan. These are two of the four team members that are going to be participating. And they are going to introduce themselves more and talk about pretty much where they're at in the project now, but most specifically about how it directly involves Trails and Open Space and the ways that you all can participate and help to facilitate this project. You've seen the scope of work and the proposal that I shared last time. So there's a lot that goes into all of this, but we're going to try to open up discussion for how this board can be useful for this project and vice versa. So Kayla and Morgan, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. It's great to know that you guys got to read a little bit about our project. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I should have asked that.
Yes.
Great. I'm Morgan. I grew up in Chicago, but I came to Colorado for my undergrad, and I decided to come back for grad school, so I'll be a double buff. And I'm really excited to work on kind of the infrastructure side of this project. I'm really interested in the way that space is organized and how we can use that to help build community. That's one of the main goals that our project is targeting, is the sort of sense of connection, which seemed to be lacking given the input that came from the community and the RTAP process that Jessica was a part of. So we're really hoping that we can use the wayfinding on the community and recreation path to help sort of connect those neighborhoods better, and I'm really excited about that. And Kayla, do you want to introduce yourself a little?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. I'm Kayla, I'm from Virginia. I've been in Washington State the last 8 years. I did my undergrad at the University of Washington in Seattle. And I'm kind of far-fetched from an outdoor recreation project. This program is pretty fun and immersive, but yeah, definitely a different capstone than what I was going towards. But I'm super excited about it because it was on my top 3 list, mostly with Jessica, just a wonderful project manager. I was really excited. I also figured this would be a great experience to learn about mountain towns and just really interested in that wayfinding aspect. I really love field work, so I was super excited to have that opportunity. And I'm really interested in that idea of mapping. I've done a lot of survey jobs for Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. I was doing a lot of salmon surveys, and we'd utilize a lot of times field maps or Gaia to do surveys. And so I understand that wayfinding element is super important, especially in a really touristy area like Keystone. So super excited about this project, but I have a background in food systems and American Indian Studies. So working with tribes, especially the urban indigenous community in Seattle. So definitely out of my field, like I mentioned, but super excited to be here. Our deliverables, we have 3 main ones. The first one is the signage and wayfinding plan, which will be a document outlining some items Morgan's going to get into a second. And the second is the GIS story map, which I'm super excited about. That's what our field work is hopefully going to inform us of areas we're going to assess and items we need to, create symbols for. And it will very much be a public facing deliverable for hopefully the Town of Keystone website if it ever makes its way there. But nonetheless, it will be a really important item for just Jessica and the Town of Keystone for internal planning purposes. And then our final deliverable will be a final report talking about items that we'd love to see in the future being implemented, probably around things such as accessibility. And Morgan and I and our team have been out to Keystone 2 times at this point. We went just recently, we met Lindsay Hirsch there and did the walking tour that I believe he did for the RTAP process. And as well, we came out in February, and it's really interesting to see it when it was snow season and there were a lot of tourists there. So we have a lot more to do, but I'm really excited to come back out there. And we do have some upcoming dates I can share soon. But Morgan, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the survey and that connection to Trails and Open Spaces.
Yeah, so the third deliverable, if you guys remember, is a signage and wayfinding plan, which is just going to be an internal planning document for Jessica. And then I'm sure that you guys will also use that to inform the work that you guys are doing with the trails. but in order to inform where signage is needed, that's really what we're a big focus of the signage and wayfinding plan is the recommended locations. And then we also have a design aspect, so like different templates for signs that we're going to work on. But we're really hoping to get input from the residents and people who are in Keystone and more familiar with the area about where places are that they're confused regularly, or places that seem unsafe. And so we're going to roll out a survey. We're hoping to get it rolled out on May 1st. You see that's what the sign is going to look like. We have printed some of them. They're going to go up along the community and the recreation path, so people will see them when they're out using it. And you can scan the QR code and just fill it out. It also will be available on the Keystone website, I believe. And it'll allow people to just put in like some information about how frequently you use the trail, what you're using it for. And then there'll be an option to put the location, like where you're confused, and then a picture. So you can do it if you're like in a place and you scan the QR code and you're like, I remember that I was just confused about this. You can go back and take a picture and it'll take your exact location. Or if you want to do it later, you can do it at home and then mark the location on the map yourself. And then just some questions explaining why you chose to do that. And we're really hoping that you guys can help us engage the community, get people to take this survey. Obviously, we would love it if you guys took it. You're there, you're using these trails, so we want your input. But go out with your friends or your family and have them take our survey so that we can get as much of that good information as possible. We really want to hear from you guys about where it would be useful. And then along with that, we're really excited to be working with you guys. And Jessica has mentioned to us the Colorado Open Meetings Law, which limits how much we're able to contact with you. So it would be really great for us if you all can maybe decide on a point person who's really excited about this, who we're able to contact, so we don't have to go through Jessica all the time. Just something for y'all to consider. And then, yeah, Kayla, if you want to talk about those dates that will be coming up there, that's exciting.
Yeah, so we'll probably meet you guys in person quite soon. We're definitely coming up. Our first day is May 14th. We're just going to be doing a team fieldwork day, which we're going to be planning on Gaia, which if you don't know Gaia, it's just an app that you can sort of see property lines and trails. And it's really easy for us to be able to point plots, take pictures, take notes within it, and then share that information, whether in a data file with Jessica or just a screenshot. But we're going to plan to do some field work and see if there's any major hubs that we want to address for further field work days. So May 14th. And then we're also coming to the town cleanup day on May 30th. Super excited to help out and just meet folks, talk about our survey, hopefully get the word out there. And then the other days, let me bring up a calendar. The other days we're going to be at the Bacon and Bourbon Festival. We're really not sure in what capacity yet. We're trying to figure that out with Jessica for just tabling requirements. But we're aiming to work with locals for the most part of this project, which I also know that term is very debatable on what that means. But we're also excited to somewhat engage with recreators, tourists. So maybe we're thinking Bacon and Bourbon Festival would be a really good place to meet a diverse group of people. I think that's in July. Is that July?
I think it's June,
27th, 28th
the end
of
of
June.
June.
Yep, June 27th to 28th. And then July is when we're hoping to have a community workshop. We just talked with Jess. We're thinking July 16th and 17th, so Thursday and Friday would be cool for us to come up there. And we're not sure in what capacity we'd like to do a workshop. We're trying to deter from what the RTAP process did with just like a sit down workshop with, easels and a lot of conversation. We're hoping to make it a little bit more lively. We're not sure exactly what that entails, but that might even be, having a low-key informational session or just discussion at, I believe it's called Steep Brewing, or going for a bit of like a small walk on part of the trail to try to engage more with the community. So we will keep you guys up to date on that. And I can send all these dates to Jessica to make sure you guys have them. But those will be the days that we are for sure going to be in town, in person in Keystone. We would love to meet with you all on any of these days. Like Morgan mentioned, if there is a one-point person who we could be in contact with to make it a little bit easier, not so much through Jessica, we'd love that. But also we respect that Colorado open meeting law. And so we're happy to also continue to go through Jessica on that one. But we are really looking forward to having you guys' support and help. None of us only one of our team members is from Colorado. So these are the first few times we've been in Keystone. So we're really trying to gain a lot of knowledge. And we know that you guys are a wealth of knowledge, and Jessica told us you're a really passionate group. So we're really excited to work with you all.
Questions about survey and
I think we asked last time about the overall timeline for the project. So just wondering what ending date might be like, or.
Yeah, so for at least our field work, we're hoping to end that by July. We go back to school August 21st because we're on the semester system. So we're going to be working on our final deliverables towards August. And then once we hit the fall, and like I said, fall quarter starts or semester starts on August 21st, we pick back up with our other classes. And this will be our final year in this graduate program. So end of July field work, August and September deliverables. And then we're hoping to do a final presentation. We're not sure what that would look like to town council, or maybe it's just to Jessica, maybe to you all sometime in the fall, as well as I believe the COILS conference is something that has just came up. We're not sure in what capacity that might be a part of what we're doing, but we'd love to, we'd love to connect with that event. It's pretty cool that it's going to be in Keystone. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, end of summer.
You go potty?
Sorry?
Ernie, could you repeat that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I've got a new puppy at the house. I'm just trying to get her to go outside. I will put myself on mute. I apologize. My bad.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'm super stoked that you guys are on this project, taking it on. I was curious, how long are you going to have the QR code survey available for the public?
So we're hoping to have that up through the summer, probably take it down at the end of July or the beginning of August. And then sort of in the fall, like Kayla was saying, we'll be taking that information and incorporating it into our final deliverables for you all. So all throughout the summer, it should be there.
Awesome. Thank you.
So as you're heading into this project, do you have a template that shows what you believe to be the existing trails that your work will provide the inputs on, or is that still a work in progress?
So
I can answer
we're
that.
sure.
Just to clarify, what I've given them is really similar mapping to what you all have gotten, the asset mapping that we got when the county trails were maintenance was transferred over to us. Some of the maps we've been using to look at the community path and the rec path. But part of it is that they have the opportunity to get some of the feedback from the trail work you're all inventorying to look at where trailheads need to be or signs need to be. Go ahead, Morgan, if you wanted to elaborate.
Yeah, I think that was great, Jessica, and we absolutely love to see any of that work that you guys are doing with inventorying. I was just going to say we're mostly focusing on the community and the recreation path, mostly because we really only have about 3 months to do the fieldwork aspect of it, and we want to make sure that we can really focus and do a good job and not try to bite off more than we can chew in terms of the trail systems that you guys have up there. So for anything that is not directly on the rec and community path, we would probably, take your recommendations or information about that, but we're not going to be looking into it as much.
Are we on the community and recreation path that goes from here down through Keystone the whole way? Is that what we're talking about? And then the part that's kind of like
Here's the path and then here somehow you get over here.
Yeah.
Can you comment on from that disjunctive part and the goal for this?
Well, I think that's why we have this project.
There's an opportunity.
Yes. That is
Is a goal to be able to get that figure away or a couple of ways through by July or whatever, the end of July, figure a way through there? Is that it, or is there a timeline for that? The questionable part?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is like the sort of informal trails around Keystone that are not connect to the community. No.
Morgan, on the community recreation path, there's a lot that's clearly defined. And then there's a certain part that's really undefined.
Yeah.
And we would like to be able to define that part, that question mark, I'm gonna call it the question mark community rec path.
Like from Lakeside, east?
Yes.
Yep.
You're talking,
Between Lakeside and River Run. It's
Yes.
pretty ambiguous when you're on the path.
Yeah, exactly.
You share
alright,
the
my
road,
bad.
you share the road for a minute. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I misunderstood that question. I'm sorry about that. So yes, that
No
is
worries.
definitely something we're gonna be addressing in what capacity we can. Obviously, our project does not include like making a sidewalk, but we can say, put a sign here to tell people maybe how to connect to the rec path on the other side. And we can suggest that the town look into those like infrastructure connections for, safety and all kinds of reasons. But that's a little bit outside the scope of what we're going to be doing in terms of actually putting a path there.
So it would seem that, part of what we can do as a task force, now that we understand where your focus is to be able to identify what paths can we provide feedback on. It's already started. I mean, I don't know if Morgan and Kayla are going to listen in to the presentation later on about the first work in identifying a pathing through East Keystone. But I know the work has included identifying, a sign here would be helpful. And here's a historical marker opportunity. And here's where a path will connect. So the thought process has already started. And if we can then identify the other paths that you want that feedback on, maybe there's a way that this group could split up that and provide the input that could assist you along that way.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Obviously there's only 4 of us, and we can only make it up so often. And so like any, support that you could provide us in that aspect of like being on the ground there would be really great. I think we need to discuss more as a team exactly what that's going to look like. So I don't want to give you anything definite right now, but that's definitely something we're very interested in. And, we would love to work with you guys on that.
And what you can definitely do is go on the path, scan the QR codes. I'm going to be putting physical signs along the path next week and just start documenting some of the signage and wayfinding that is missing that you've already noticed. That's a great thing to start doing.
Are we going to have like a list of potential signs, or like a running list of like a dog waste sign, stop sign, yield to traffic? I mean, can we make like and then you can add your own, but like for things to choose from, like to start thinking about all those different kinds of signs?
Not part of the survey right now.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
so will we be involved at all on that issue of where everything's ambiguous between Lakeside and River Run? Who's doing that part?
So we want to get feedback on that from everyone. So if you all know like, hey, we need to put striping here that shows you're still on the path, that's great feedback. If visitors are biking and they send a similar bit of information, what this team is going to do is they're going to look at all of that feedback that people share, but also where the locations overlap. So if 10 people in the same location say, I'm not sure if I'm still on the path here, that's like a perfect place for them to add signage. So it's a little bit of both.
Okay. And I'm not sure I know where the actual path is. I mean, I know where I go in parking lots and whatever to get there.
That's okay. I think that is all the more reason to share where the confusion is.
Okay.
Ask your friends to come out and scan the QR code and
Yeah.
give their feedback. The more feedback, the better.
Yeah.
And so for instance, on that confusing portion or for the whole bike path, later on, Chris made that map that showed the path. It would be super helpful, I think, as a visual to have that pop up so you could actually document where you are on the path. Because I know where I am when I'm walking the path, but like, how do I know where I am on that path when I'm confused?
That's perfect that you asked that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think if you're talking about in the survey,
Yeah.
So in the survey we already have basically layers over the map that have the rec and the community path, so that people can see it and they'll be able to like mark where they are. So you can, it will ask for your location and you can say like, take the location from my phone where I'm standing. And if you pick that location and you're on the trail when you're doing it, it'll just do it exactly where you are. Even if you don't exactly know where it is. Yeah. And then there will also be an option where you can pick if you do know where it is so that people can do it both ways.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
I went out and tested it on Tuesday and it worked really well.
So this is software that we'll get for our phones or?
It's
It all
gonna
comes
be,
through the
it's gonna
QR.
be shared in a lot of different ways. I will make sure to send you all an email directly with the link, but you can also scan this QR code or all of the ones that are along the trails.
Is this live right now? Like we scanned it right now?
It would work if you scanned it. It may undergo a few changes before it is live, but you could do it now, I believe. Morgan, Kayla, would you want them to hold off on that or?
Yeah, I think I would wait until May 1st. That's when we're officially going to go live. We might be doing some more internal piloting and stuff, and we want to make sure that we can take the useful information you're giving us and know it's coming from you. But definitely once it's in May, go crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
Kayla, anything else?
I think that's all
Okay.
from us.
All right. Exciting work.
Just
Thank you.
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Now, this is going to help our efforts tremendously, not only providing recommendations for signage on the existing paths, but a way that as we identify future needs or additional ideas, we have a methodology in how to do it and a consistency in how we'll do it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, we're super excited.
Okay. Ready to go to the next agenda item? Gabby, our deputy town clerk, I think sent a note out to us and it was included in our agenda materials where she is planning on launching a Trails and Tales feature in our town's website for residents and guests to be able to access. And of course, her idea is to be able to have a description of these recommended trails for people and their pet to be able to take, and decided it would be a great idea to give us a heads up prior to sending out an invitation to the greater public, if you will, to provide information that can help identify where these trails are. And again, in the handout that we received, she has a sort of a template in what information that she would need in order to do that. So first, I'll throw it open to any questions someone would have in regards to her request. Al?
Yeah, so again, you go on a trail, how do you know what the trail name is? I think a lot of people may not know where they are on a trail. You know, just that location, where am I, if I'm on it?
I don't want to speak entirely for how Gabby has envisioned this, but I think her intent is if you're on a trail that doesn't have a well-known name, it probably isn't the right one to advertise.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, and one other point that I don't know if I had in here was we're trying not to highlight trails that would detrimentally have issues from overuse. So ones that are well maintained and not maybe, you know, think about the hidden gems, how much they should be advertised versus kept as a less used trail.
I immediately thought of the pedestrian path on the Snake River, and I wouldn't want to advertise that.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a little fragile and there's no dog waste disposal. There's no, and I find those bags all the time where people with good intentions put it in the bag, they think they come back and they don't. So that would be one I would not put in there, even though it's great for dogs.
Yeah, so I hiked that Settlers Creek Nature's Path this week, and it was the first time I'd ever been on it. And I noticed their sign, and it looked like it was more like a neighborhood path. And I wondered if we had ever considered, especially since there's so many social paths and sort of informal paths, of doing kind of a tiered trail system where you might have a neighborhood path, you give it a name like Settlers Creek, but it may not show up on every map. It may just be for an area, or it's somewhat more, not hidden, but not as well advertised. Anyway, because that was a beautiful trail and somebody put that sign up, and, you know, and I thought it was wonderful, but there's no, they say pedestrian only, but there's no bike racks there and there's no parking for cars there, but.
And I think that's a really good point you bring up, which is partially why I really appreciate the inventorying when you send me pictures and share information like that, is we do intend to put together a trails and open space master plan. And part of that will be looking at trails that need to be formally maintained and have trailheads or bike parking or things like that in order to be used and formally part of our trail system. For this particular trails and tails, stick to the ones that are well maintained, named, have good access, things like that.
Part of the challenge with that is that, you know, take the Aqueduct Trail, for example. I and family and dog go on it frequently. Now, there really is no place to put your dog waste along the way. There's no trash cans, and I'm sure they deliberately do that, because then somebody would have the responsibility of maintaining it. But does that preclude us highlighting that trail if it meets all the other criteria?
Yeah, because there's good parking there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can park.
I would say there's a waste disposal at the parking. I mean, there's those big giant,
A dumpster.
the dumpsters, that's really bad.
But we can warn people in the description that
Yes.
please, you know, you're required to bring your waste, and there's a receptacle where you park to be able to put that.
Yeah, I think Gabby is going to have final discretion over what would be the most appropriate trail. And she is going to email you all directly with all of this. So you don't need to worry about missing it. So once she emails you all, if you have a trail, you can run ideas by her and just make sure that that would be a good one to include.
And will she be the one? So if I send her, say, hey, I'm going to do the Aqueduct Trail, and then someone else sends her saying the same thing, I'm going to provide you information on the same trail. Will she manage that so there's not a duplication of effort, or if there's an ability for two people to work on the same trail?
I think she will. I think the goal with this is it's low hanging fruit to try to bring people to more of Keystone's great trails. If more than one person has a picture of their dog on the trail, I think both will get posted. Everyone loves that. I don't know exactly how she's planning to roll it out, so I'm going to let her send the final email and decide. Speaking of dogs.
Dog, he's super cute. Snoopy.
We have one enthusiast.
That, her name at the litter was Snoopy, so now she's known as Pop.
Okay.
Hey, Jessica, can you hear me? Oh, yeah, you can hear me. Jessica, I sent you, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months ago, some photos that I took on the Rossiter and the Perimeter and the Soda Ridge. Those are all kind of, they connect right into the aqueduct after that little, what I like to call the dog cemetery up there, which is really sweet. But that whole area there as well, it has a trailhead, it has parking at the golf course and so forth, and also at the top on the at the aqueduct trail. So you might want to just pass that along to her. Or I can wait and I can just forward her the email that I sent you. But I don't know if that's proper with the meetings and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah, that when she sends out the email, you can send it to her. If not,
Okay.
I can definitely pass that along. I have everything you all send me saved so that we have it in a database.
This kind of brings up
Thanks.
another point about the dog waste things. That's something maybe when we do the QR codes or when we do the trails, like places where we think we need a dog waste place that's also easily accessible for like or whoever goes and, like the aqueduct, it hits that Keystone Ranch Road. So you could have one there by the road.
Mhm.
Is that something that we should
That would be
be
helpful.
putting input on, like a dog waste
Yes.
station would be good here? Okay.
And if you have like an immediate thought about where a dog waste station should go, we are ordering 4 of them to install in the meantime. Like we have the signs ready to go. They're right over there. So that is going to happen before we add more. So if you're like, I know the perfect spot, like I think Josh is putting them in the ground in the next few weeks. So email you that.
Careful.
And then also, if in this meeting, if there's signs that you want, I'll just document what those signs are. I'll start keeping a list of the kinds of options.
That would be really helpful.
So you have
What I can say is I was with her actually today at Keystone Gulch. No garbage there, no dumpster there. I was there a few days ago. There was a dumpster. Today, no dumpster. And there's no other garbage there. I mean, it doesn't bother me. And I think dog owners, frankly, carry it out. You bring it in, you carry it out. It's, actually, I think it's still on my windshield. I put them on the outside of the windshield wiper. So they sit out there. But, yeah, it's nice to have those bags there in the garbage. But I also think that as a responsible dog owner, pick it up, carry it out.
Yeah.
Sorry to butt in, but
Aaron
I was
has
just,
go ahead.
yeah, sorry. I was just going to add that those dumpsters at the Gulch Road, I believe are what Vail Resorts use to pull trash out of the Levante's restaurant. So they're actually private. They're really not for public use, and that's why they're probably there and not there sometimes. So I don't think we should consider that as a group as a reliable resource. But then that also gets in the tricky area of where Forest Service starts and what's Keystone, but just food for thought. But yeah.
Makes sense.
Good point. Yeah, and it's good to focus on the rec path and community path for now, since that's kind of like the starting ground for all this trail network.
Is the rec path separate from the community path, or is it all?
They connect. I know that these terms are not necessarily well-defined for everyone. I'll point them out. I will make a map at some point. Yeah, community path runs on the south side of the Snake River most of the time, and the rec path runs on the north side of the Snake River most of the time. We'll go over that.
Okay.
Zach, you had a question.
I was just curious. So you mentioned that the town is installing dog waste bins. So you already have all that set aside, like a crew or people that are assigned to clean and like empty
Yes.
those.
There will be 4 of them, and our public works director, Josh, will be the one who empties and refills bags.
Sweet.
And that was my question that what Zach just asked. So is there any bandwidth for more? Because I'm assuming, especially if we're going to communicate to visitors about paths that they should consider taking with their family and pet, they're probably not going to be as amenable to carry their waste out. Or if they do, they're probably going to think, why publicize this if you're not going to provide us a means to get rid of our dog waste along the path someplace?
Yeah,
Just a thought.
that is a good point. Eventually, we will expand how many there are and assess how maintenance of those looks. I'm not in charge of deciding that, so I'm not gonna promise. I'm not gonna overpromise. But knowing where good locations are is good for future planning. So I want to go to Aaron real quick since he's had his hand raised.
I was just wondering if we had any sort of thoughts on creative wordage for signage to, a laugh always helps with compliance. Like there's no such thing as the poop fairy or the green bag fairy, so carry it out.
I don't remember what they say, but they're already printed for the first few of them.
I'm just going to quickly ask if they have QR codes so that when they're full or overflowing or bags are empty, that you can just shoot them or text something.
They do not currently, but it's been talked about. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Our neighborhood has that and it works.
Yeah, that's
really well.
really good.
When you go down there and they're empty, you just text them and then they know.
I'm going to pass that on. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. Now, there's a few things that town council has asked for our input. One of the first things that they're asking is that we make and participate in providing information for their consideration to make a special use permit application to the U.S. Forest Service for a parcel of land that is surrounding this building, as I understand it. And I guess in consideration for us giving that feedback, there was some material sent that kind of generally described the application process. And probably the most clarity was an example that the town of Frisco had, or is in the process of going through, working with the U.S. Forest Service and getting a special use permit for a pretty significant parcel of land outside of their town. So beyond that specific request, in reading through that, I'm wondering what questions that you have in relationship to the request from town council for us to give that feedback. And what are some of the things that not only questions about the initiative, but maybe some background information as to why this, why now, why this particular piece of land, what sort of preceded this request. So I'll just kind of throw it open to
Let's have Aaron
task force.
just briefly.
Aaron,
Yeah.
could you
touch on
give us some background on this?
Absolutely. So, as you're probably aware, as some of you may be, some of you may not be, special use permits are how entities operate with fair levels of control on Forest Service land. Keystone Ski Resort operates on a special use permit. The Frisco Peninsula operates on a special use permit from the Forest Service to Town of Frisco. Town of Breckenridge also has a special use permit that allows them to create, maintain, and sign and build trails around the town of Breckenridge. Many municipal entities have special use permits throughout the state of Colorado. And I think that we could be one of those, and you might ask why. I think we're all aware that the Forest Service is not being supplied with adequate funding and staffing to do the things that we all might imagine wishing they would do. And we've seen some of the great outcomes that other municipalities around us have been able to achieve for their communities and their visitors through special use permits. So in general, after speaking to both some of the open space and trails managers and other parts of the state, as well as one of the former district rangers for this district, the general thought was the first thing we ought to have was a letter of intent expressing a wish to cooperate and collaborate with the Forest Service around our boundaries, with the hope for the future establishment of additional agreements, for example, a special use permit. So we don't have to get super specific here, but I think if this group were able to discuss and generate a letter that town council could review and approve to the Forest Service so that the new district ranger sees that this community wants to be partners, I think that's step one in opening the door to what is not a quick process for special use permits. It's not like we can be like, oh, we want one of those and we're going to have one next week. It's like, this is a multi-year project. But I would put to you, imagine the ability of this town to potentially have tax dollars designed to build and maintain trails, not just within this town, but connecting this town to the forest lands immediately around us in ways that benefit our community and in ways that the Forest Service just doesn't have the bandwidth and budget to do. I think we could have something really cool around here. That's my personal dream is, you know, when you look at the example I give for the land around this building or uphill of this building is south facing some of the first dry areas in the county. And when we look at sustainability and the future of our community, we know that we're facing shorter snow seasons and longer summers. And part of the way that we can sustain our community is by making sure that there are activities for residents and visitors to do during those transition seasons. I mean, we know that the trails up on Tenderfoot Mountain have been dry, bikeable, and hikeable for over a month. And that's not a rare thing, but imagine if we were able to curate and care for those trails on a regular basis, maybe even have purpose-built ones. Those are all possibilities that could be explored and determined by this group. But step one is forging a partnership. And that's what town council is looking for from this group is bring to us a letter of intent and cooperation and collaboration that we can share with the Forest Service, with the special use permit being an end goal.
For one, that is very, very exciting. I mean, my favorite trail in Keystone is right up behind here.
The incline trail?
Well, no, not
Not that one.
going much further. Okay, you make it to the power line you hit a road, an old logging road. You follow that up through the clear cut. You end up at Virgin Timber. There's a trail that leads to the tree line. Then you can climb the ridge, look towards our mountain. You see all the ski trails in the summertime. There's a lake up there that probably none of you, if you've not hiked up there, and it's a long hike. It's about 30,000 steps, 15 miles, something like that, up and back. But it's well worth it. That lake is absolutely gorgeous up there. And I have this photo.
I agree.
I shared with Lindsay, and he said, "Can I have that? I want to use that." Because it's the lake, and then right behind the lake is our mountain, Keystone Mountain, and then you see Independence Peak, and it would attract a lot of people. I have seen.
Where do you park?
Where do you park? You can park right here.
Okay.
And you can, as if you were going up to the incline trail, where it forks to the right, you take that right, and that leads to a bike path, a black bike path. It eventually ends up right at the power line, which you just walk a few steps and then you're on the dirt road, and you just follow that all the way up. I've seen elk, I've seen bear, all kinds of critters up there. It is amazing. And one of my dreams has always been to have these trails up here connected to the bike path, to the rec path or the community path, whichever you choose, but one of them anyway. And the same thing on the south side here. I don't know, have any of you been up Independence Peak? Isn't that a great hike? I mean, and once you get up on that ridge line, yeah, I'm sure you have, Aaron. You go everywhere, and I've done like over to Bear, and then you drop in, and then go up the backside of Bergman's Bowl, and man, there's just so much opportunity up there, and I think I'm not the only one that started backpacking when Colin Fletcher wrote the book, The Complete Hiker, and wrote a book called The 1,000-Mile Summer, Mexico through California to the top of Canada. And then he did 1,000-mile, what was it called? A Walk Through Time through the Grand Canyon. But as a young man, that's what got me into backpacking and outdoors. And having access to all of these peaks around here, and Keystone being the center, that is going to be, I think, our future sustainability.
Yeah, I think there's, a lot of untapped potential here for sure. I have a lot of thoughts regarding special use permits and working with the Forest Service. Yeah, so I think it's a long-term project that we're looking at here. All of those towns that Aaron was talking about, yes, are great examples. There is a vast difference that they have a paid staff that works on those sorts of projects. The first step of getting a special use permit is going to be a giant step for sure. And then once we get that, then we have to go through the whole NEPA process, and National Environmental Policy Act, which once we get to that step, we're looking at 3 to 5 years. Like if you look at that Frisco backyard project, that was under review. That was a environmental assessment, and or maybe it was an EIS. Either way, it was like 3 to 5 years to get to the point where this year the Forest Service is finally starting to implement some project work for that backyard. Then at that point, the next big hurdle is getting the funding to do all the trail work. finding contractors, getting the contractors doing the work. Like, yes, volunteers are really great to get involved. But at a certain point for that sort of complexity, you need contract trail crews to be out there with state-of-the-art machines, creating sustainable pitches and slopes for the trails so they don't just blow out after the first big monsoon storm that we have, right? And yeah, I'm a very avid recreator myself. Like, I'm romping around in the woods, riding my bike as much as anybody else around here. And yeah, I have my own personal goals of seeing trails here and there all over our town of Keystone. But my first thing I would say is, like, before even asking for a special use permit, is like, we can just have support for the Forest Service by expressing that to them, our gratitude towards the Forest Service employees. When you see them, thank them, let them know that we live in Keystone and we appreciate what they do. I think that's like the very first step in that process. And from my understanding, that has not been the precedent thus far, if I'm being totally honest. There's been some very heated town council meetings with Forest Service representation in the past. And I don't know if we presented the Forest Service with a letter intent of saying we want a special use permit in the future, I don't know how well that would be received currently. And so I think our first step is, yes, showing good faith and showing that we do care and that we want to be involved and we are a player in this. And that first goes with showing up for volunteer events. Friends of the Dillon Ranger District is a major volunteer organization that partners extremely close with the Forest Service. Showing up to their events. They're going to be working on the Two Stump Trail outside of the neighborhood over here in Keystone. And I think that would be really good if we showed up as a board, but also some town council members showed up and just like expressed support instead of just like asking questions and grilling people, just like, hey, we appreciate you coming out here and doing this volunteer work.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Zach said. I looked at that Frisco backyard project and I was intimidated. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so huge. And I can see that it takes 3 to 5 years, but I wondered if we had the bandwidth to do it. If we're just doing a letter of intent, you know, to start that collaboration or show support or start to build that relationship, I would totally support that. But and one question I had for Aaron was, this particular parcel, you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying this town center would be a hub. So it's important to have this land around here. Is that correct?
I think that is a hope of some folks, that this could be a community center.
Okay.
I have a general thought that it makes sense that the area between Keystone's northern boundary and Frey Gulch Road might be our long-term goal for some areas to look at trails, but you know, the answer to like where that distant future is completely up in the air and up for discussion. It does make sense to try and connect to areas where you have parking and where a community center would be, but you know, there's nothing like, it's not written in stone. It's not even anywhere near that. It's up for discussion. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
And to talk about some of the other concerns, I think when it comes to budget, you know, I think town council and town staff, that's a collaborative project as far as where funding comes from many years down the road. That really doesn't play into the decision making at this point, because we're talking about time horizons that allow for adaptation and planning on a budgetary process that would support any projects that would go along with future goals. And to reiterate again, the goal here is the ask from council is for a letter expressing support and a desire for collaboration. And I think that expressing what our future hopes and dreams are is part of that. But step one, again, is there's been absolutely massive turnover and staff losses from our Forest Service. And we want to make sure that that new district ranger understands that we would like a collaborative relationship. Yeah, you're right. There were contentious meetings and there were many constituents from our community who were very upset with Forest Service. And it's certainly the duty of town council to represent those voices and raise those conversations. I don't think that anyone is interested in sweeping issues under the rug. But the truth is that the point of having collaboration and cooperation is so that we avoid those issues. We have cooperation and discussions around the town boundaries so that we can help each other manage the land with resources that the town might be able to bring to help the Forest Service in projects that they just can't do in the current situation. We might be able to help with that in the future. And that's a collaborative, friendly relationship. And that's where everyone on the town council wants to be.
Aaron,
Yeah.
in terms of funding things, is there anything on town council for like legacy funding? Like if somebody wants to leave money when they pass, or some kind of a legacy thing, like a legacy path, your name on a path, or something like that?
That's a wonderful question. While it isn't enumerated in that exact terms, we do actually have, we have passed an ordinance that covers donations to the town. So someone could indeed do something like that. It's a great question.
So Aaron, again, you, on one hand, you talked about a much broader approach with the Forest Service over time and what benefits of that could be. And at the same time, this specific request is of, again, a specific parcel of land that you would like our task force, or the council would like our task force to come up with ideas that could lead to the start of collaboration with
A letter of intent.
Yeah.
of intent, saying that
We don't want a letter that says we want this specific land and a special use permit, please, thank you. We want a letter that says we would like to have a good collaborative relationship to talk and cooperate around, on projects around our boundaries. And in the future, we would like to work towards a special use permit. We don't have to say what specific land that would be. I think that would be jumping the gun. I've told you what the town council has talked about in our hopes and dreams, but that doesn't mean that's what it has to be. I don't think that our specific ask says that you need to say, hey, we want a special use permit in this area.
Right.
Does that offer clarity?
yes, and because I was confused with what seemed like a specific request for a specific parcel of land versus what I think you're wanting, or the town council is wanting from us.
I'm
If that
and
makes sense.
sorry for any confusion on that. I'm glad to offer the clarity.
No, because I think and we're all saying it in different ways, with the excitement of having a broader coordinated trail system that not only encompasses the town of Keystone, but the areas around it, really excite all of us. And obviously the Forest Service is going to have to play a key role in that. And it sounds like the sooner we can get on their radar screen as being an interested and cooperative group, that's going to help us long term.
And also to clarify, the special use permit just lets us as the town essentially rent that piece of land from the Forest Service. And in order, it's typically a 20 or 30-year permit. And that's the easier one to get because that gets approved by the forest supervisor instead of going up to the regional supervisor. If it goes to the regional supervisor, you can get a longer term, but it's a lot harder to get that accomplished. So I think as we're looking forward into the future, we probably want to go for the 30-year special use permit, which would be signed by the forest supervisor, which stays here on the White River National Forest.
So is the request like today to get someone to write this letter?
I'm going to clarify that. So I spoke with the town manager and I can confirm this, but I believe that the intent is that council will write the letter.
Okay.
But would like your input on what it should say. So are there specific ways we want to start this collaboration? Are there specific areas of land that would be really good to start looking at? Are there, is this an interest that we think is good for the town and represents the desires of the trails and open space that we have?
So, okay, so now I'm just confused. Okay, so I guess I think it's a great idea to write a letter of interest. I'm taking, something, it's a letter that also should show good faith and intent, maybe in ways to be collaborative at this very beginning, because it looks like this first letter, forget the future in a way. This is like the handshake. Hi, I'm LB. Hi, I'm Zach, right? Who are you? Or, are you just, what are you? Well, I actually want to, nurture the forest and these great lands, in that kind of a thing. And you're saying what ways, what does support look like? Maybe the showing up for Friends of Dillon Ranger. Also, the way you explain that to me now, about what that provides, that gives me a different motivation from doing things for Friends of Dillon Ranger projects with the intent to show, the town of Keystone, instead of just like going help being a volunteer. You volunteer so many different places, so that provides a motivation and an intent. So maybe there's something like, I don't know, in that letter that can show something like that.
Well, again, it would be helpful, and I think you provided the Frisco example as an example of what the scope of something like this could be long-term. But is there something that we could look at in order to come up with a?
No, I think correct me if I'm wrong. So now I'm hearing that town council is actually going to draft the letter and they would like our feedback. And if we have anything we would like to contribute to this letter of intent. So maybe putting on, what I would like to add to that is kind of what Zach said about really developing better relationships with Friends of Dillon Ranger. I think that would show good intent.
Well, and I'm wondering that since this is a beginning of a relationship, how do they know very much about our Trails and Advisory Board? Maybe we need to introduce ourselves to them with, some simple way, or invite them to a meeting or whatever works. I don't know what works.
Or acknowledge them in a meeting, or also maybe there's some other way that, a lot of people don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it's a Bacon Bourbon Festival, if it's a different festival, maybe there's some other thing, come meet your trails, but we don't want it to be a thing where people show up and they harass and say the Forest Service, but maybe there's some way in with, along with Vail Resorts and the town council to acknowledge the Forest Service and what they do and they provide. And especially since, budgets were cut and now there's people that are all, allegedly it's all restaffed and all of that kind of stuff, but just create, maybe there's a way of a quarterly recognition of the Forest Service or a Forest Service employee, like Employee of the Month or something like that. And in honoring somebody, it also brings awareness, of what to do in the motivation. And certainly this year is prime, maybe we could, prime, like, to acknowledge our Forest Service with all the fires, this whole level, you can utilize fire mitigation and some of those trainings, and also at that time acknowledge, I think a lot of people don't understand what goes on. They just want things done, and then who's responsible and accountable.
So,
blah, blah.
So Aaron, from a timing, and Jessica, on the timing of this, has town council said, hey, we'd like your feedback by X date?
I'm going to report what is said in this meeting and
give it to them. So this is it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, this is your discussion and we're listening and we'll all take what you say into account as we craft this communication.
I'd like to piggyback on what Elle's saying there, like the Forest Service employees, it can be a very thankless job a lot of times. Right now, the trail crew, I know for a fact, has been out hiking with chainsaws for hours of the day, clearing trails for us. You can see the remnants of their work. So just like a town blurb of like, hey, thank the Forest Service trail crew for clearing trails and within the surrounding area of Keystone. Something as simple as that, I think, would go a really long way of starting to build a solid foundation for this relationship that we want moving forward.
Oh, I think that's nice also because, people expect Disneyland. They want, things cleaned up and all this stuff. But if you build in, the departments and you can do it with firefighters and you can do it with police, et cetera. But also something that really hasn't been tapped in that much is, if you're involved with the Forest Service, then you know what it is. But if you're a tourist and you're coming up here, you have no clue. So there's the disconnect between the people that know and the people that are here, and maybe there's some certain way, like, I don't know, buy a cup of coffee or I mean, like for Forest Service or acknowledge
Service Appreciation Day or something.
Yeah, something like that. But I think maybe you could do it with the Forest Service, maybe you could do it with fire department, maybe you could do it with police, with all the different people that really support Keystones and all of the, and also people that do these things that I really think it doesn't hurt to give recognition to people at all. People love that.
And there's an education piece, and I'll just speak for myself. Where and under what circumstances do you need a special use permit? Where, if you have ideas for path improvement, it doesn't require a special use permit. It just requires a relationship with the Forest Service to understand what's their process in getting that fixed or repaired or et cetera. So however we can find that out through this, I think could be certainly helpful to our group as we go forward with our proposals.
Maybe in there we ask, how can we help? Maybe that would give them an opening.
Yeah, how can we help? What's your need? Where do you want support? What would support feel like to you from the town of Keystone? Tell us, ask them.
So one suggestion I have to throw out, mostly because it's a little bit in the works, is I've talked with Sam Mossman, who is the interim, do you know?
He's the forest recreation manager.
Okay.
So he was the acting district ranger. There's a new district ranger.
Thank you.
And Massman is the forest-wide recreation, actually just the trails, wilderness, OHV recreation manager.
Excellent. He expressed an interest in building a quarterly or some sort of like cadence to coming to these meetings and collaborating together. And we haven't quite set it up yet, but I just wanted, hearing that there's this opportunity to collaborate, it might be great to say, next action is reaching out and setting up this meeting cadence to come here and discuss together.
Any other great discussion, and obviously you've hit a nerve with bringing up this topic. Is there, for the sake of getting to the next agenda item, if you have further thoughts or comments on this before a formal letter is developed, can people independently send that to you, Jessica?
Yeah, that would be great.
Because again, I can tell by the nature of the conversation that, it's a pretty passionate discussion. So with that in mind.
And feel free to CC me on that.
Okay.
And let's go to Bernie. I want to make sure you get a chance to weigh in here.
Yeah. Just real quick, an easy, quick little recognition would be on our website as well, the city website. And when we've got EMS on there, we've got police on there. Why not have the Forest Service on there? thank them, have a little link to their thing. I mean, that should be a quick little easy thing.
Got it.
A week or so ago, I attended the get together at Steep, where two council members, Keystone council members were there, as well as about a half a dozen people from the community. Why couldn't we do something like that with the Forest Service? You know, maybe it's council supported. So you have a person from the council and a person or two from the Forest Service, and then invite the public at large.
I think that's something worth asking.
I found it very informative. We were there like an hour and a half, and a lot of my questions were answered by Dan. I think it was Dan Sullivan, our Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem, yeah.
Any other comments? Aaron, do you and Jessica feel you have the input? And again, with the opportunity that there's other thoughts, they can send that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Would certainly welcome,
list.
would welcome more thoughts and very much appreciate the discussion and the feedback. And some of those ideas were very exciting and very good. Like if I seem flat and tired, I've had 3 hours of sleep the last 2 nights. So understand that I'm actually like really excited about what you'll have been talking about. That last example given, like I would love to see like joint the equivalent of coffee with council and rangers. That would be so cool.
All right, good segue to the next topic. Again, an item that town council wants our recommendation on. And materials were sent that talk about should we recommend any action to council in regards to the action that was taken with the Tenderfoot Meadow wildlife closure that's in place. Apparently and Aaron, are you the most familiar with this particular topic?
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. So in general, the town council, and a little history, the town council has been very sensitive to the feelings of residents about being boxed in their own backyard. And I'd given a really good example of collaborative interactions with the Forest Services when there was a planned blanket closure for the Jones Gulch area. Town council and town staff met with 4 or 5 folks from the Forest Service and discussed that issue at length and alternatives and compromises. And it was a super positive conversation, which I think we're expecting to hear very soon what the Forest Service has reached a decision on that. And similarly, no one wants to feel like, oh, well, I live right next to these wonderful natural lands and why can't I use them? And that is certainly a feeling that many folks who live in the Antlers Gulch, West Hills, Wintergreen zone, as well as the rest of the community, have expressed around the winter closures in the Tenderfoot Meadows, also known as the Dump Trail Zone. So this is a zone of open space, county open space land that you all are probably familiar with the trails such as Black Cliffs or Snake River Bluffs, depending what you call it, Buzztail, Sage, and Oro Grande, the trail network, the dirt trail network that connects Keystone to the rest of the community runs through it. And that had been trails that have been open year round up until 2 seasons ago when a winter closure was instituted 24/7 and short on sleep. I don't remember the exact timing. I think it's either November 1st or December 1st through March 31st. And the decision was reached. Many community members didn't receive notice about the discussions around this. So there's been several discussions back and forth around the environmental rationale for the closures, which were to address some of the elk deep winter range, of which this is classified by CDPHE and I think CU as elk deep winter range. Within that zone, it constitutes about 1% of that land area or less. And there were some questions about whether there were ways to balance the needs of the community with the needs of the animals and the environment. And the question was, what does this group think about that closure, those balances? Where is there room to ask the professional agencies about that, like CPW, for input, and to give feedback to the land managers who are the county open space board, who would be able to make recommendations to their master plan. Ultimately, it gets approved by the Board of County Commissioners when there's a closure of the land, about dates and times, and whether it's the current model is what is the best and most equitable way to go about achieving those goals while balancing public access and taxpayer land access. So that's some background.
Aaron,
Yeah.
like in the wintertime, what do people want to use it for? Like for trip, go up and skim up and ride or ski down, or what's the usage that they want it?
Snowshoeing, hiking, cross-country skiing, fat biking, and those trails are also typically the first trails that are dry in the entire county. Sometimes those trails are hikeable in tennis shoes and bikeable because they're south and west facing and windswept. Sometimes many of those trails are dry in February for some days. And if you haven't been on those lands it's almost entirely open sage meadows. My personal outlook on it was elk tend to go into the open areas during the nighttime hours. They don't like to be out in open sunlit meadows that are near human activities like the dump, the shooting range, the dirt track, and Highway 6 when it's sunny. But they do like to go bed down there at night. So I was always a fan of asking about a dusk to dawn type closure to keep humans out of there at night when the elk would want to be there.
Chris, you had a
I would just like to voice support for their seasonal closure. I think it makes sense for the elk, and I like that I can cross country ski on the Fry Gulch area if I want to. Anyway, I think it is a good buffer and it is good wildlife access, and keeping humans out of there for the winter makes sense to me. So just my 2 cents.
I'll piggyback on that too. At Summit County, we've kind of grown in a lot of places and a lot of areas and encroached on a lot of wildlife habitat. And without being a wildlife biologist working for CPW or any sort of professional agency like that, it's hard for me to say that for sure is like their migratory route or where they're bedding down. But obviously the county did some sort of background. And to Aaron's point, I think maybe it's a fall on the county for not advertising and like sharing that information with the town, with the community before implementing these closures. So maybe just like asking the county to like put out more information on what they received from CPW as to like the why, maybe explaining the why behind the closure a little bit better to make it more clear could be really nice. Yeah, I'll also say like this whole hillside here behind the like incline trail and everything up to Fry Gulch, if you're walking out here in the winter time, you will see a lot of elk and moose and just a lot of wildlife on this hillside because of that south aspect, the less amount of snow. This year I didn't see them as much because obviously we didn't really have a winter. I was calling it the winter that never was. There's still snow up high. Don't get me wrong. I'm still skiing, but it's just really good wildlife, deep winter wildlife habitat. And so to Chris's point, I feel like we don't have a lot of it here in Summit County, and something to keep in mind, finding that balance.
Maybe then, the request could be of, these trails are, thank you for, because certainly people don't want to build more homes, and that we want to respect the space of taking over too much of everything. A lot of people do on the mountains, taking over all the natural habitat. I think it would be great if it was closed. Then you could say, if you want to go Nordic skiing, you can go here. If you want to, if you live right there, it's like right behind you. So you want to be able to walk and do that. That's like huge, but maybe there's like I don't know.
Other recommended areas to
do it if it is, because I know Keystone close because of the elk. They migrated at a certain time, and that's how they close. So that's different. Allegedly the mountain. There's it's my understanding.
That's an endangered, the lynx are an endangered species.
No, that's the lynx, but I thought that part of the reason.
The mountain does not close when they close because of the elk. There are elk calving season closures, and that is why the Gulch Road remains closed during certain time frames. But that is not why the resort closes at the time that it does.
Yeah, the Jones Gulch closure is in relation to the lynx habitat, and it's really more so a lynx passageway, which I won't go down that. We can talk about that another time. But to Aaron's point and Jessica, the resort, from my understanding, doesn't close because of wildlife.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to use all of that, but also I think we need to respect wildlife. And is it something that needs to be done? Is it being overused? Are there a lot more people? Is the problem also that there's more people on those trails to scare away animals? I don't know what happened, why there's, 2 years ago, they started doing that and they didn't do that before.
I think a question I would have you all consider is, if you have a range and you build most of your trails in 1% of that range, is that the area you want to close, and then you displace people into the larger areas rather than concentrating them and leaving most of the area undisturbed? Those are some things you might want to consider. And then there's always the question about taxpayer expenditures on trails. Is that the area you want to focus your closure on?
I really don't. I think that's really about the wildlife. That's my question.
Something else I'd like to add too is I think asking for more of an understanding of why the closure was in place could be a good starting point, as opposed to just going to the county and saying, hey, butting our heads with them saying, hey, we disagree with your closure. Kind of goes back to the Forest Service piece of creating these good, healthy relationships and fostering good relationships for the future. We're in Keystone, we also have county land around us. And if we can use this as a stepping or a project or something to show our collaboration and coming together for tough conversations, but it's all about the approach. It's not necessarily what the message is, but it's how you approach those conversations. And so I think it's more before we go to the county saying, hey, we don't like this, maybe we gently approach that would be something that comes to my mind.
Also, if there's a shooting range and people are using the shooting range, I don't see why you can't be biking around the shooting range. Do you know what I mean? Not in the path of it, but do you know what I'm saying? That certainly is something that animals will not be visiting unless they're, in that respect. So I would look at certain locations. Maybe there's certain locations that would make sense for access for things. I don't know.
I have seen elk right above the shooting range in the middle of the day. A bear too.
Oh, wow. Wow, they've become used to it. Wow.
For whatever reason, 2, 3, 4 years ago, when this was put in place, based on the materials that were presented to us, the majority of people that use this path approved of or understood the need for closure. Aaron, is that the council's concern that that group that spoke to this 4 years ago that led to the approval was not representative enough of the people who would use it?
That's an accurate assessment. And you are correct in the examination and work that county staff did for their master plan update to include the closure. They did do surveys and trail intercepts. But what council discovered from feedback from constituents was, and upon then further research, there was very few to none of the permanent residents of Keystone who were contacted by mail. And so the users who were in the immediate area were not necessarily aware of the open houses where most of the feedback was derived. And when you look at the number of folks who were contacted and interviewed, the number is quite small. So the feeling was it might not have been representative based on the amount of feedback that then came out afterwards in the follow-up.
I guess hitchhike of Zach's comment, for me to feel like I could offer an opinion, I would need more information to either substantiate that the decision that was made 3, 4 years ago seemed right for the right reasons, or boy, there's some real loopholes or holes in this, and we need to think twice or something. I don't know how I can say more than that without additional information.
Agreed.
I would like to also agree. I'm completely uneducated on this issue. Like, to have, yeah.
I personally really like Zach's idea of outreach and understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great starting point.
Education and knowledge is a powerful thing. It neutralizes a lot of people.
That could be our input.
Well, yeah, and it also, everything could be done with a little QR code scheme, as well, if you wanted to, like, oh, damn, this trail is closed. Then you can go, and there could just be a person from the Park Service or from whoever is in charge of animals. And this, we understand, just saying, we understand you'd like to use this trail. It's vital right now for the elk community, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for respecting and taking care of Keystone and our, whatever. It could just be like a real simple little thing with a real person doing it on a QR code that would say it's closed and why.
And if we can get additional feedback and education, it certainly will help us as we think about other trails and extending trails or connecting trails, having the sensitivity behind wildlife and not be dumb about it, if that's the way to say it. That education up front could be helpful.
Yeah, because a lot of the people, well, not the people that live over there, but some of them also will go and try to go right up to the moose, and there's just like a big disconnect. But with the location there is primarily people that live here or work here, so that's different than just tourists. But there's certainly a lot of people that are younger that have, some of them are more conscientious, and some of them don't even think about stuff. So it's two different spectrums, really conscientious and I don't care, me.
I'm sure we've seen people of all ages try and walk up to a moose.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm hearing this group. It sounds like that there's this desire for information on the rationale for the process. It sounds like there's a desire for understanding on what the community wants. Does that mean you guys want like some sort of survey?
I think before survey, I'd like to know what is the rationale, like I second what Zach said.
Yeah, just like gaining a better understanding of how the county came to that ultimate conclusion of the closure.
And then the last thing I was hearing was understanding on the rationale for the closure in general. And then I think I heard specifically, well, what about when the trail is, 5 feet from the dump fence with a 20,000 pound vehicle driving on the other side of the fence, or someone with a gun firing that gun? Why is the person the problem? Versus maybe some of the other trails that are farther away from those highly human impacted and active areas.
And I'd like to support what Zach said too, that a good start of just developing a good relationship with the county. I think just a friendly opener and then requesting more information might be a recommendation from us to just look.
Hearing 3 words.
Should Zach be our ambassador on all of these?
Yeah. Seems to understand.
Gratitude, education, and QR codes.
Aaron or Jessica, any further clarifications needed?
That was super useful. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the next agenda item. We have 3 individuals in our task force that have put a lot of work behind the presentation that they're going to cover. And that is their recommendation on the East Keystone Rec Path and thoughts they have and how we can not only use it, but where improvements can be added to the path itself. So in respect of time, what I'd like to do is throw it over to Alan, and Chris. We thought it would be a good idea. They could use the map as their way of being able to explain their thoughts and recommendations along the path. And then Jessica, you have potentially some slides that you could show where applicable that might support what they're proposing.
I can bring up whatever you 3 need me to present. I'll just try to keep it somewhat brief so we have plenty of time to discuss.
I'll start off, guys. Is that okay?
Sure.
This is a test drive also, so this process can be used. We're trying to also, besides doing this path, we're also trying to create a way or a system to go forward on other paths, what works. So in the handout, there was a video of the entire path. And in that video, where Alan and I walked, we put some questions that we had, and those are physically in the video. So we don't have time to go through everything right now, but I think what's really important for this this meeting right now, we can talk about a few things. Also, what kinds of signs do we want? Do we want to have points of geological interest to stop? Is there signage? I love that the students are having the QR code for this is confusing. Can you sneak down to that, the slides real quick, and then we'll go back up there. So for instance, this is where we started. And here's Alan. This is right at the very beginning of that on Independence Road in Montezuma. So this is the entrance to the Alders right here. So you know where we're located. This is Montezuma. This is the path. Alan had said that he's seen people turn here onto this, and I've seen that happen too. There's no signage. It's very confusing. What is it? We don't even notice the path. Where does it go? It goes over there. So we're looking at things like some kinds of signs to put there. Some of these things like do we need places to cross, yield for pedestrians? Notoriously, people are driving really fast down Montezuma. Do we want to have one of those signs that says, here's the speed limit and here's how fast you're going? as more people start to use this and you know, with the East Keystone, the power line lot, all of this, there'll be a lot more usage there. So, you know, there's also questions that we have are like this path. Can it be extended? Is it just for bikes? Right now it's for bikes and people and everybody, you know, and do we need to address that? Is it a bike path? Is it a rec path? What is the usage? Who can be on it? You know, in that kind of a thing. Do you say yield to bicycles or, you know, I don't know, but just in terms of safety, as we're looking around, we were having, and jump in, Alan, anytime, you know, we're having conversations. Well, what kind of signage? Is it safe? You know, does it need to be repaired? Do people know? Do they wipe? You know, things like that. Is there, you know, there's bus stops on there. You know, it'd be great also to have, these bus stops are from Vail Resorts. So I'm curious how that also connects to, you know, the town of Keystone being able to use those bus stops, have them noted, you know, and like named, because some of them have names and some of them don't have names. And we marked in the video what some of those are. You know, just any kind of concern. Do you want to have, like here, this is Montezuma right here. This is up, this is towards that power line. Well, this is right here is Ski Tip. This is that new
Camber.
Camber. So there's a street here, there's a street here, and then here there's like an unofficial thing where people cross, you know, to get in here. So this is the roads, right? But then people are just, this is an unofficial path that you can see there's a lot of traffic and footage. So do we want to have something there?
Did you cover parking? Where did you park when you did this? Or did you walk?
I live
He lives right there and we
right in
really
Keystone
steep and we
River Runs.
steep.
Okay.
Your car was parked in the big lot, I think.
Yeah, I was in the big
Power line, because
The main,
No, the main-
in front of Keystone.
River Run lot.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Montezuma.
Montezuma lot. What?
All names for the same giant parking lot.
That lot, a lot.
The giant one, power line parking lot.
Was closed and gated,
Right. And that,
so you couldn't go in.
that's up to the county
Yeah,
that has to stay closed.
Oh, yeah. But also, and the power line lot and, you know, in the summertime, and it's my understanding also that power line lot is going to be used for Kindred. They'll be parking some cars over there, I think, you know, things like that. But there's going to be, and with Kindred, there's also going to be a lot more traffic on this road than there has been as well. So that's also additional impact. So we're just trying to look at, you know, what do we have here? Stop sign, yield, point of interest, you know, and if there's any other safety signs, if you guys think, do you have any thoughts of what other signs?
Well, I have a thought. I've seen lots of people park at the corner of Montezuma Road just to unload skier traffic. And they park right on the paved path. So I'd like cones or some sort of barrier to stop people from doing that.
Okay.
The resort had that issue this year, for some reason, people started parking
Right where
there,
they
and
go
they
to get
were
in.
working with the police department
Okay.
to regulate that. It hadn't been an issue before, and they just started parking there. My suggestion for a sign, right where we started the walk,
Yep.
part of that transformer, could be a good option for like a map,
Mm.
kind of little kiosk, like you
Oh,
are.
right. Is this where you put this little thing here?
No.
Right here? So this is where we started. This is where I was really confused.
Just right where you started, right here, because this, I didn't write the red line, does connect.
Mhm.
And so you could have a sign right here with a "you are here," and then people could say, "Oh, look, a nice loop," kind of thing from where they are. As our usual Keystone trails. I guess I'll see what's down here. And that could be a good location. I don't know if we can put that in front of a transformer or not, but.
Well, but something like that might be neat, like, and also where, like you are here, you are here, you
Yeah.
maybe have a couple of those things because people don't necessarily know where they are. And tourists don't know where they are. And also, unless you've lived here for a long time, it takes a lot of people, I mean, it's super easy, but they, you know, they don't know where these things go.
Yeah, not obvious.
Just, and then other things we're looking at, like we're over here, this is the Snake River, that, you know, you kind of come over the bridge, there might be, this is where the path is over here that crosses to go down to River Run there. And here, there's always people, there's always mothers with their kids and whatever. And then there's people going fast on their things, and there's people turning and walking, you know, definitely probably somewhere over in here have some place to pull off, you know, little rest stops. Do you have places, if we can use the bus, question other questions? You know, like where these there's bus stops here. Could you ride your bike to a bus stop? Are there, you know, and are there places where, you know, I would hope that in the future we're going to be getting around without driving everywhere as much. So, you know, I you know, just looking at places like that, that other, I mean, there's things like at certain points, Alan was pointing out, you can see Wolf Rock here. You can see Porcupine Mountain, you can see Idabel Mines. So maybe it would also be neat to have either, I mean, you could be a QR code and eventually it could be like a point of interest or something. And again, I want to put into this conversation legacy things or donation things where people could sponsor, you know, I think, you know, how neat to be able to contribute to your community. And if it's like, you know, $175, $500, you know, something like that, you can contribute to a certain monument or something like that. And maybe there's a way of fundraising so we don't have to rely on hiring taxes or, you know, anything like that. But these are little specific things, and certain people, like you have trails and things that are important to you. People might want to do that, or have a group of people go in to do that. I'm sorry, I'm off point, but I'll let you guys, you know, benches, potential benches, someplace, places to pull over. Also, the other question we had was we were walking around was like, well, if we're back over here, we're walking through like the townhomes right back here. So it might be nice to have a bench or something or pull over, but also what impact does that have on that neighborhood? So there's the trail, you know, and some we've noted some places maybe for a couple of, I think we noted some place in there for an additional dog pickup thing. I'll look through that and tell you, but you know, just things like that. And then also there's the purpose of the trail and the impact of it. Yeah, you guys jump in here.
I think signs, I mean, I've been sort of collecting signs where you're going through private property. Over in Silverthorne, there's the Blue River one. A lot of it, you're going through private property. And so they have nice little signs that say, please stay on the path. So I think we should have that as one of our signs that we can use in the future.
Like stay on the path?
Yeah.
On the path, stay on the path, private property.
But I would make it sound nice, not.
But yeah. Okay.
Just be pleasant.
Could you go forward, back, or rather back actually to a shot?
Oh, to the pictures at the end?
Jessica.
Sorry, I'm just letting Dan back into the meeting.
Okay.
Just give me a
I think
second.
her second slide, I just wanted to point something out.
Alan knows all the sites.
Yeah. Next, the third one then.
This one.
Yeah, right here. So what you're looking at is the new power line parking lot, the addition they put in because of the Kindred. They needed additional parking. That hunky-dory parking was no longer there. So this is a trail. This is a social trail that goes up the side of Wolf Rock, what direction is that? That's the western side of Wolf Rock. And through that, you can actually access eventually Porcupine. So there really are no official trails up that part of Keystone. But here you have a social trail. If we're able to have a better relationship with the Forest Service, this is one area where we can add some additional hiking. And, it's not a difficult climb up Porcupine. So it could be accessible, and the views up there are quite spectacular. So one of the things that when I first was working with Elle on this project, one of the things I had a barrier, and that was I thought that the bike path and the rec path was pretty well defined. I want to add more trails. I want to increase the number of trails. Then when we started going through and filming, and I'm seeing there are a lot of safety issues here. I mean, crossing Montezuma Road, and there's a stop sign for pedestrians, but there's nothing to warn drivers that you're crossing a major, there are hikers crossing the road. And all around, there were all these needed things for signage and safety issues. So then I started thinking, well, okay, yeah, we need a lot of work on the main passageway through Keystone on foot. And then when I went to the council meeting at the brew pub, one of the new council members said to me, Alan, you've got to do both. You've got to have better connectivity to these trails, as well as improving the rec path. And so this was, there's a lot of things I think I would do differently now. Well, also there was too much snow. We couldn't go into like the nature trails, a couple of nature trails. I would have loved to have filmed that and done some reporting like this from those trails. But the next one we'll do, we won't have snow to contend with. So I think in terms of a long-term vision, increasing connectivity north and south is a major objective. But we also have to figure out the signage, and thank God we have the students from Colorado University helping us out on that.
Well, something that is important, when you start walking around these things, then you see all these other trails, okay? So the focus, it was really hard for us to keep focused on, our mission was this loop of the bike path. So it's important to get all of that. But also to keep our focus. I heard the town manager speak at the town manager forum, and he mentioned that one of the most important things for them is connecting, the first importance of Keystone, one of the first importances is to have the rec path, because it's the main thing. That the focus should be on, on that, and find a way to connect all of that and make it better. And then there's the other part of the logging as you're here, like as we walk, if we walk these loops. So we're like, okay, so there's that path. What do we call that path? The social path. How do we document as we're walking around these paths? And then I was thrilled that there was snow on all the other paths, because I was overwhelmed by all the paths around the path, and I'm like, okay, but just keeping focus and sight, and logging the social paths, the other things like that. How do we do that? So I wonder, Jessica, also, can we it would be helpful if we're doing, if they have the, you know, the students have the sign, we could use that to say, suggest signage and stuff, and they'll have that information. That would be super helpful, because as I'm looking back up there, I'm not exactly sure where, I have a good idea of where that path was, but I'm not 100% sure.
You know, to hitchhike on an idea that you presented, Al, on, you know, if we identify this extensive list of signage that is needed, that individuals could contribute in providing the signage if it's beyond the budget of the town. And I don't know how it works, but
There's a little plaque of something that's stuck on, you know, how you sponsor a highway or something like that. You do something and you pay for a sign, you do something, and there's, you know, and you can, if you're paying for it, and if you want to be, you can do it in memory of somebody, you can do it in your dog, do something like that, but it also would connect personal,
sure,
you know, people's personal attachments to the places that they love, and we don't have to use taxpayer dollars for everything.
I was going to ask Jessica, will the students' project result in not only the signs needed, but an analysis of how expensive are they and where do you get them from? And
They are not going to do the cost side of things. That's really for town staff and council to examine. They are going to look into funding options, like if there are grant programs that can go towards this, or if there's any like priority expenses we should look at, but they're not going to do an analysis of the exact cost.
will they have an idea as to the individual cost of a sign?
Probably not.
Okay.
They're generally trying to provide the important locations, the type of signage and wayfinding, a template for what the sign should look like. And then the way that they design that is going to be how the town cohesively, I guess, like uses the way that they look as all of the other signs in the town should be. So town hall sign, parking signs, trail signs, the signs they design, everything is going to try to be unified so that we're showing this is what the town looks like. This is when you're in the town. So they're more doing the work on the plan to implement all of this, and then staff will look into cost, size, materials, everything like that.
Okay.
Couple thoughts I have, you know, Alan, you talked about connectivity, and obviously connectivity is a main goal out of all this. Something that really comes to my mind is trailhead parkings also for the rec path. You know, I heard you walked from your house, maybe Chris came from his house, but Elle, you parked in a Keystone parking lot. How do we show that you're parking in Keystone? How can we have, you know, like the parking out here, right? You know, how do we get people from this side of the highway over to that side of the highway? That, you know, we do have the tunnel right over here, but you know, the stoplight in town, like crossing at the stoplight, somewhat iffy, especially in the winter when the roads are a little slick. I don't know that I trust that. So, you know, where they're coming from, whatever state, if they're going to stop in time.
You can see the worried look on their faces when they.
Yeah, you can see it as they're approaching. You're supposed to stop back there.
Are they really going to stop? Yeah.
So like you know, the connectivity is huge for me, especially getting across the highway, like having another spot on this east side of town, but also on the west side of Keystone. You know, we were talking about the folks in West Hill having access in the early spring and whatever times to the dump trails, but there's access to the rec path over there, and it's very challenging to get to. So yeah, connectivity and parking are huge things that come to my mind. I don't have any answers. Just want to put that out there. But a solution I've seen for getting funds in other towns for trails and infrastructure for open space, they have a QR code at the trailhead, and it says something of the sort like, do you like the trails? Do you appreciate the maintenance on this trail? Give a donation to such and such organization, and then you can scan the QR code and donate to Friends of the Dillon Ranger District. or the town, like at our town, if we establish a town trailhead, we can have a QR code there that says, hey, the town is putting this infrastructure here for you. Please donate to have the vault toilet pumped if we want to have vault toilets at trailheads, those sorts of things.
Chris, Alan, any other thoughts or?
Yeah, you've raised a good point. In fact, we want more trails, but how do people get there and where do they park? That's something I
have a thought on that with
really consider.
Summit Stage right now is making a map and it has all their bus stops and then they have the trails near their bus stops.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that'd be cool. Like we could say where the Keystone bus stops are and what trails are near them. And then people don't need to drive. They just hop the bus, go to different trails.
So to that point, real quick, if you guys are curious about something, a hub of public transit with trailheads, look into what Sedona, Arizona has going on. They have something very similar where they have these kind of depots and you go and you park at this depot and you can jump on the bus and the bus will take you to another trailhead. You can ride a loop and jump on the bus and it takes you back to that hub, that trailhead hub. There's also from those trailhead hubs, they have trails that you can jump right on without having to ride a bus. But that's what Sedona has done. And I think that's kind of what the Summit Stage and like Breck are trying to do, especially with if you look into the STRAP project, another project with the Forest Service, the Southern 10-Mile Recreation Area Project, with the shuttle system going up to Quandary into that Blue Lakes zone, McCullough Gulch. All of that, that's kind of a goal of theirs with that project.
Very quickly, just to piggyback on the parking lot thing, also bike racks. I now, especially with the e-bike, I e-bike to a lot of trailheads and it's really nice to be able to have just an easy place to lock your bike up.
And like that nature path said pedestrians only. And I thought, well, if you bike there, where are you going to leave your bike? There was no place.
Yeah.
Oh, and then can we go back to that map?
Yes.
And there's, because it was really interesting. Right about, okay, so we're over here. Too much. Okay, so we're over here. This is Ski Tip, Trappers Crossing, and then somewhere right over here, where's the bridge? I don't know, somewhere there's.
Snake River.
Where the red thing is
A
right.
little bit further down.
Right here.
Snake River.
Okay, so here, so then over here, this is like all a really defined path, and then someplace it's completely not. You're like walking on a really defined path, and then you're like, oh, where did it go? Where am I supposed to go? You know, and then, so I mean, that was really confusing as well. So I think I'm really happy about this thing where we can do the QR code. That's going to be so helpful, other than sitting here piecemealing. We can go through the video, which is also super helpful. You know, but I think that would probably be the most effective way to do that. Do you agree? Do all agree?
Mm-hmm. You can still absolutely video document, take pictures and send that to me in addition to that. But so much of a sign needs to be right here. Like this is a perfect place to have green marking that shows this is where bikes should ride. You know, like whatever it is, that's like the fastest way to just take a picture and show exactly what it is.
And the pictures will provide location.
Yes.
So then you can see the location on the map.
The thing that would be also nice to be able to work with Vail Resorts or transportation is with the bus stops. You know, we noticed like one of them was mowed down. They're there, but like if they had real names, if they were on a map, are those just temporary things? Do they change, you know, questions? Do they change every year? Do they not? But certainly there'd be some sort of a way that would be helpful for all of their guests and, you know, everybody as well too, so.
So Jessica, is based on all the work that's been done on this path here, do you feel you have the needed inputs to be able to track and propose what the group has put together?
I do recommend though, if we're taking it in certain places, it's nice to have the video.
Yep.
I think it's nice to have both because I love this map. This is like it's like, oh God, I should have done that. Do you know what I mean? Like that's so helpful because you can see what it is. And then, are there things like mile markers in the path markers? Or maybe we don't need mile markers or path markers because we have our phones and they have location devices now, that may not be as important, but I recommend doing a video of it as well.
Yeah.
Part of this path, especially on the north side there of Montezuma Road, there are mile markers, but I have no idea where they begin, where they end.
I'd say that's the issue I find with mile markers is like, where's that definitive starting point? To Chris's point, I really like the idea of having, if there was a main trailhead hub, having a map and being like, you are here, but you also can have maps throughout the trail system saying you are here. But it's nice when you like have a definitive trailhead, like this is the main trailhead we want people parking at and like recreating from. And that really helps you like herd the cats, so to say, especially if us as a town, we're trying to become a recreation destination for non-snow time, right?
Yeah.
Being able to funnel people to a specific area. We don't really have a downtown Keystone. And so maybe that's like part of the bigger goal for the town too, is like having a hub to get people to come there. And then they can go out to these restaurants, these breweries, so on and so forth.
And those kiosk maps where you can make your plan from, where you see all of Keystone, you're like, okay, let's take this path and then we can connect to this trail kind of thing. And then within the path, you just have the little like 2.5 miles to River Run.
Then also, Alan, I remember something else he was talking about. This is a difficult trail. This is an easy trail. Like maybe we use the same thing, like easy, the same kinds of things to difficult, and it may be on like because parts of that path over here on the nature path, and then if you go back behind Settlers Creek, there's a part of it that's really steep. Which it's been really easy, but you might want to know about that in advance. So, the degree of difficulty in the really public, the paths.
You can get to the Ida Mine Trail from, right? Isn't that the Ida Mine Trail?
Where the Snake River comes through, you cross that bridge, you can walk that trail, the nature trail from town, and you can get up to the Ida Bell.
Yeah, that's
where the cabin is, and then you can like hike straight up along the creek.
I'd like to have a sign there at that road junction that was like, half mile to the Ida Bell Mine Trail would be.
So then again, this is the thing about, we need that information. And then we need to keep the focus on what we're doing. So my question is, when you're walking around, how do we document all the other ideas that come to you and all the other paths? I mean, how do we track that?
There's no reason not to document all of them.
Okay.
When we are looking at like coming together to discuss like specifically the community path and the rec path, we can focus discussion on that, but let's document and share all of it. Okay. I don't think there's any reason to hold back on looking at everything we're eventually going to get to.
And my other recommendation is as we go forward as well, like this was everything we did was easy, super green walk. But if you're taking some of the other paths to maybe, think of the degree of difficulty, just in terms of safety. And if you have kids, or if you're going to be pushing a hiking stroller or something like that,
I think the way that this discussion has gone has set up a really good model for how we can keep doing this. Pull up a map, point out key signage, connectivity, safety, amenity needs, and we can go segment by segment and we see like, here is where this would be great, here is where this would be great. And then overall, the trail condition was easy, well or poor maintained, friendly for these types of users, things like that. I think that would be a great set of criteria to look at as we continue. And when we're ready to determine, I'd love to pull up the map and figure out what the next segment will be and have 2+ volunteers go out and do.
I was just going to raise that. So this has been a great approach for us to get our arms around and a great template for the next portion of the map that's developed to the video, the drawing, the map itself, the things that were captured, as you referenced. So was the last time we met, we said we'd start east and I thought move our way west. So does that mean that the next section would be immediate to the west of this?
Yes.
Before we address that, may I make a comment?
Sure.
And maybe I'm thinking a little bit too far ahead, but an interesting deliverable in the future would be something like, how many of you have read Mary Ellen Gilliland's Summit Hiker?
I have.
I have it, but I haven't read
It
it.
used to be the standard.
The Bible, right?
You come up here, you look at that and you got all the trails. Well, what if we had the Keystone Hiker pamphlet put together and it had all the trails, had one page, just like Mary Ellen did in Summit Hiker, with all the key pieces of information. Sometimes she had little maps. But boy, if you pull into Keystone and you have that in hand, and know exactly.
And if the town did it.
They're all rated according to abilities too.
Yeah.
Diversity, wildlife. I mean, do you want his history? Well, okay, you got Ida Bell Mine. It's all there in a succinct format. That would be our generation. Your generation would want it all.
An app.
All trails.
An app.
You could just do it all.
But it's only in a box.
But the other
Love paper maps.
If it was a book, and it could always be an app, it'll eventually be an app. But also it could be something that could be sold, and if it was generated and paid for and developed by the town of Keystone, that would be a product, that would be a revenue center. Sorry, you hear me say this a lot. Yeah, you could do, but to just get, so we're not relying on taxpayer monies for everything. And then it would be something that generates a profit that you could give for a gift and stuff like that too. Houses, all that stuff.
Or if it's at the signs, like the big maps, you could just have a little box and you can always have advertisers on there and that'd pay for it as well.
Yeah.
Our main trailhead hub.
Yep. Well, but also, I think it would be neat to have like a main trail hub or maybe a couple, and maybe as we go through all these places, where would be good trailhead hubs in, where's the hub of this next gen, thing?
Parking, because I really think parking is an issue.
It's huge.
Let's go to Dan's turn. He's got his hand raised online.
Oh, sorry. Oh, we can't hear you, Dan.
Thank you. Sorry, I've had computer problems today. I like the idea of the book. I agree that like an online resource would be awesome, but we also have to make sure that if we have 10 different people writing the trails, that we have a standard that is the same. Because one person would be like, that's an easy trail. And someone else will be like, that was really hard. So, and I also just sent I recall in all my years of hiking, one of the maps that I love the best was at Bear Lake in Rocky Mountain. And it shows you the gradient around the circle in as much as like you might be able to go halfway and come back and not complete the loop because there are a couple of sections in there that are rather steep. And it's color coded and whatnot. So just an idea to add to the group. Yeah, as we get along, I think we have to have a color coded or some type of way of describing how easy the trails are or not. So
Thanks.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Great. Okay, I think this was super helpful. I have a ton of notes and feedback. It'll be very, very good. Let's set the next segment. I guess Alan Christopher, did you feel like that was the right length to examine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good size that we can bite off and then discuss and present.
Well, because you think you can walk it really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but when you're sitting there thinking about it, like, then you're like, oh yeah, look, there's a real, this is really high. It's very steep. I wonder, do rocks fall down here? I mean, like, I don't normally think about stuff like that. You think about all these other things when you have your mind in that way.
Okay, that's good to know. It sounds like we're certainly starting at the East Independence Road, Montezuma Corner. And now we're going west.
West Independence.
Sorry, you're right, west. That was key. Okay, west. So anyone feel free to stop me when we think.
We started right there.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we keep going west, at some point, we get to a really fun
River Run, right?
location.
Yeah,
where
what the
the
hell?
trail sort of gets ambiguous.
Well, and if you go further south from there, there are trails that that go along the river
Yeah.
to, let's say, the gondola
Yes.
area.
Yeah.
So maybe that bridge at the gondola.
Yeah, so where we left off, definitely this portion, because this is noted path, paved path. And then maybe coming in and looking at the trails that are in between up to the gondola.
Okay, because where we did the circle all the way up to there.
No, it was always one road over.
I did?
You started here.
Oh, because that's red off. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
Do we want to go just to River Run or through it to East Keystone Road? Or is that
Well, I mean,
too much to?
Keystone's not part of this, right? Technically, like the village.
It is part of it.
Okay.
It's just, at least from an aerial, this is the point where the obvious paved path ends. In terms of how it's used and intended, the rec path continues through here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's
That's part of
paved along Idabel Drive. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, that's part of why we're looking into this is when you get here, how do you know where to go? Does the next group want to take on Idabel Drive to say East Keystone Road, or is that too much?
To me, that's a good amount.
It's a good amount? Okay.
Also, because if you go down on East Keystone Road, where the rec path kind of like gets definitive again, you come down and where that River Run Road is, there is a sign that encourages bikers to turn right on that River Run Road there and go down and take that right into the gondola.
But there's no sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk. It's shared.
That's the annoying part. I think they need a sidewalk.
Loop from West Independence to East Keystone Road and get all that.
I'm with Chris. I kind of like that as a chunk.
That makes sense.
Going to.
I can scribble a line on a PDF again for us for the next one. I mean, I'll make some colors where there is a path and there isn't a path, so do that.
Let's see if I can get this to work. We're gonna go. And it's really hard to do the mouse with the big screen, so bear with me.
Yeah, you're doing great. We got ahead of ourselves.
I wanted arrow.
Silly computer.
Let's try that again. Okay. We're gonna go all the way to East Keystone, come down to River Run Road. Keep going. Oh, I don't, so I'm,
It follows that
I
main.
don't know which
Oh,
one it
you're doing
is.
well.
The other one?
Yeah,
Keep coming through here and,
Yep.
we're around.
Awesome. Into here, and then follow this trail.
Yeah.
I cut it off a little bit over here, but back up. Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Who would like to do this? And you're all welcome to, but at least to present in the next meeting.
I'm happy to do this one. I walk it nearly every day.
Anyone else feel strongly? It's okay if not.
I mean, I can help out with that section.
Okay.
It was really helpful to walk it also with Alan, because it made me think about a lot of things. I just looked, it made a difference than, because I walked that thing so many times to get
Well, the
to.
video just says, it adds so much clarity to what you're talking about, and why and where.
Yeah, because I had taken some pictures, but then I just didn't bother because it looks like a bunch of trees again.
Well, yeah, exactly.
The video really puts you there and you can see what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then if you do a video and you want to upload your video, you may want to stop the video in segments. That might be an easier way to upload it, just do it, like, so, I go from here to there, for like, if you have it under a minute in video, it's easier to upload into whatever you want
Yeah,
to
good point.
do it in iMovie or something like that, or you could do it all as one thing, but it's just harder on the other end. But if you do, yeah, but you also, if you do it in a big thing, then you could also clip it and trim it and upload it that way too. So, but you'll think of different things.
Did you use any special software at all?
Just put it in like iMovie or
I
something.
did it in iMovie.
iMovie?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really easy. You just like upload, drag and drop, and can click on things like that.
Awesome. Okay.
Anything else,
Great
Jessica,
plan.
that we need from? Again, thank you.
I think we're good.
This is great. Great start.
Woohoo.
Is there a motion that's needed?
Well, we have one more quick thing I'm going to address, which is just following up on the email I sent about,
The agenda item on the
yeah.
re-upping people
Yes.
whose terms?
We have some terms who are expiring. I think I emailed you all the names of whose term limit ends May 2026.
Me too.
And then we have, just from some of the shuffling and some people that have dropped off, a few open seats. And so we are going to do all of that in May with council appointing. So if you have people that you have heard from that wanted to join, there's some open seats. And if you want to. All right.
How is it that,
If you're re-up, do we still need more members?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's hard for, I'm looking at this and planning and zoning at the same time, so I might mess up some numbers, but I think there are 2 vacant seats, not those that could reappoint, that are regular members, and 1 alternate.
I thought it was an alternate.
It might be.
But I guess.
Whatever I said in the email.
Yeah.
How is it that there are people that their time is expiring? When we all, the
Yeah.
group was formed at the same time?
Yes. It was intentionally staggered for the first board so that for the first 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year terms, there's an opportunity for new people to get involved, and then all terms will be 3 years from then on. And that way the whole board doesn't have their term expire at the same time. It's staggered. So everyone will have 3 year terms from here on out, but the first board was staggered just to make it so that 17 people don't have to be reappointed every 3 years.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's it.
So as they say, you know who you are. That has to, yeah.
Know who you are.
So I think we've covered all the agenda topics. And as promised, there was a lot of meaty conversation along the way. Would someone like to motion that we adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Someone second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Sure.
adjourned.
All right.